Hey guys, it's Miss Johnson here, and I'm here to bring you our notes for synthetic division of polynomials. That's what we're going to be talking about today. So yesterday we talked a lot about long division and how we divide using long division. Today we're going to look at synthetic division, but I want to start off with just comparing the two and what makes them different. So up at the top of your notes page in number 1, or I guess this isn't really number 1, this is just at the top of your page. We're going to look at the same polynomial, the same division question, one using long division and one using synthetic. So this is what we did yesterday. When we had z to the second plus 2z minus 24 divided by z minus 4, we would end up with something like this. We'd have z squared plus 2z minus 24 divided by z minus 4. Z. Sometimes my z's look like my 2's. Sorry. I need to ask myself, what do I multiply z by to get to z squared? Well, I need a z. So it goes above the 2z term. Z times z is z squared. Z times negative 4 is negative 4z. And I subtract. So these go away. 2 minus negative 4. Minus a negative becomes plus a positive, so that's 6z. I bring the next term down, negative 24. And then I do it again. So now I would ask myself, what do I multiply z by, this z out here, to get to negative 24? Or I'm sorry, to get to the 6z, hello. What do I multiply z by to get to the 6z? I need a 6. So I'm going to multiply by positive 6. 6 times z is 6z. 6 times negative 4 is negative 24. Subtract those two. Make those go away. And then negative 24 minus a negative, yay, we have no remainder. So our quotient here ended up being z plus 6. Yay. All right, so now here's synthetic division. Here's how this is a little bit different. With synthetic division, the nice thing about it is that I'm only concerned about the coefficients. So I'm only concerned about the 1, the 2, and the negative 24. I'm not going to worry about the z's. And then the other thing that I need to consider is that whatever I'm dividing by, I'm going to put the opposite of that number in the box. So my z has a leading coefficient of 1, or has a coefficient of 1. So I just need the opposite of negative 4 inside the box outside. So here's how this gets set up. So I set up a little box, and I'm going to put the opposite of the divisor. You can write yourself a little note there if you want. That's what that is. And then I list out my coefficients behind it. So my coefficients are 1, 2, and negative 24. Leave yourself enough space to write one number and draw a line and make it a little t. This is going to be your remainder, if there is any. And now our process becomes a little bit different than the long division, but it's kind of actually a little bit easier. So what I do here is I drop down the 1. The 1 is going to stay the same. And then I multiply 4 times 1, and that goes up here. And then I add those together. 2 plus 4 gives me 6. I do that again. Multiply 4 times 6, that goes up here. Add those together, that gives me 0. And then how this answer is written out, this would be your remainder, that's the constant term, and that's the x term, or in this case, z. So this is 1z plus 6, or in other words, just z plus 6. So you can see we got the same answer whether we used long division or synthetic division. I ended up with z plus 6. Now, it doesn't really matter which one you use. You can use either one you're comfortable with. A lot of people like synthetic because you're only looking at the numbers. You don't need to worry about the variables, okay, until the very end and you give your answer. So let's do a couple practice examples. I'm going to look at number 1. In number 1, I have 2x to the third plus 3x squared minus 4x plus 15. Now, just like in long division, I need to make sure none of my powers are skipped, and here they're not. 3, 2, 1, and then the constant. And now since I'm using synthetic division, I'm going to take the opposite of this 3, which would be negative 3, and that's going to go inside the box on the left. Then I list my coefficients in order. 2, 3, negative 4, and 15. 2, 3, negative 4, 15. So I draw a line for the remainder. That's my remainder. I needed to leave myself one space because you're going to be writing some numbers in here. So I have some space to write those numbers. And then I go follow the process. The 2 comes straight down. Then take the divisor that you have out here and multiply. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. Add those together. 3 and negative 6 is negative 3. Do it again. Negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. Add those together. Negative 4 and 9 is 5. Do it again. Negative 3 times 5 is 15, negative 15, sorry, negative 15. Add those together. And again, I have no remainder. So when I write out my quotient, this is my remainder, this is my constant, that's my x, and that's my x squared. I'm just working backwards. I start at the end and work backwards. So I've got 2x squared minus 3x plus 5 with no remainder. That is my answer, my quotient. Let's try number 2 together. So in number 2, I now have 6x to the 4th plus 15x to the 3rd minus 28x minus 6. Now in this case, I'm missing, give myself a little more space here, I'm missing that x squared term, so I need to make sure that I fill in a 0 there. Okay, 0x squared. So I take the opposite of what's out here. That's going to be a negative 2. Put negative 2 inside the box. This ends up, then I list my coefficients in order. I have 6, then 15, then don't forget about that 0. And then I've got negative 28 and negative 6 left over. Leave space, draw your remainder box. So I know that's going to be my remainder down there. And then I go to work, drop down 6. That's the first number. It comes down automatically. And then multiply and add. Negative 2 times 6 is negative 12. 15 and negative 12 is 3. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. And then I have 0 and negative 6. Again, I'm adding all of these. 0 plus negative 6 is negative 6. Negative 2 times negative 6 is 12. And then when I add negative 28 and 12, I get negative 16. And then one more time, negative 2 times negative 16 is positive 32. And when I add those together, 32 plus negative 6 is 26. So this time I do have a remainder. My quotient's going to look like that's my remainder, that's my constant, that's my x, that's my x squared, that's my x to the 3rd. And we should have our variable one less than the one we started with because we only divided by x to the 1st. So I have 6x to the 3rd plus 3x squared minus 6x minus 16 plus 26 over our original divisor, which is x plus 2. All right, I'm going to stop our video there for now. Don't forget to hop back to Schoology and take that quiz, and we'll look at a few more practice questions tomorrow in class. Thanks for watching and have a great night.